The headlines for this hour on VTV News. The country earns for dragons to fly. And localities celebrate National Day. In our world news, Philippines suffer from severe flood.
Broadcasting from Hanoi, the capital of Vietnam. VTV News starts right now.
Hello, it's 8 a.m. local time in Hanoi. You're watching VTV News. Party General Secretary and State President Tô Lâm has written an article on the role of digital transformation in national development. He highlighted that digital transformation driven by science and technology can restructure production relations and establish a new digital production mode. He assigned the whole political system to complete mechanisms and legal frameworks to promote digital transformation in all sectors and create corridors for new economic models. It's crucial to unleash and maximize all resources in society, as well as reform and build a streamlined and effective state apparatus. The last task is building a digital society, comprehensively digitizing state management activities, developing the digital economy and digital citizens. On the occasions of the 79th National Day of Vietnam, leaders of Laos, China, Cambodia, Cuba, Russia, India, the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, and Mongolia have sent congratulations to Vietnam party and state leaders. They believe that Vietnam will continue to gain new and greater achievements for its goals of having prosperous people, a strong country, and a democratic, equal, and civilized society. They emphasize their willingness to work with Vietnam to promote bilateral relations. In his testament to the party, the people, and the army, President Ho Chi Minh wrote, "My last wishes, our entire party and people unite and strive to build a peaceful, unified, independent, democratic, and prosperous Vietnam and make a worthy contributions to the world revolutionary cause." Over the past 55 years, his desire has been the goal and great spiritual motivation for generations to build a prosperous Vietnam.
In his testament, President Ho Chi Minh predicted that the war would soon end with a victory. He outlined a plan to rebuild cities and villages to be more beautiful than before the war. Uncle Ho anticipated that the plan would be an extremely challenging task, but would also be very glorious.
Uncle Ho was more concerned about how to rebuild the country after the war. What was his aspiration to build the country? In his testament, he aimed at renewal as the method.
Although the word renewal was not directly mentioned, Uncle Ho's testament offered great, comprehensive ideas about a program for national construction and innovation. The country is now in the top 40 leading economies and at a trade scale in the top 20 countries in the world. From a besieged and isolated country, Vietnam has established diplomatic relations with 193 countries and territories.
How come so many countries are discussing a comprehensive strategic partnership with Vietnam? Why are there so many heads of state coming to Vietnam to walk around the lake, to eat Vietnamese food, to go cycling around the old quarter? They are all relaxed while doing so. Obviously, they trust our institutions, they trust our stability, they trust our friendliness. That's the reason why.
Implementing Uncle Ho's testament throughout the development process, the party and state have always strived for the happiness and prosperity of the people as the ultimate goal.
In 1946, Uncle Ho identified three mortal enemies of the state, which were hunger, ignorance, and foreign invaders. Since then, we have now become a country that has never had the foundation, potential, position, and international prestige like what we have today. Those four glorious things, I think, are an extremely great cause. History will record this.
kỳ lớn lao.
The achievements of the country after 79 years of independence and 55 years of implementing President Ho Chi Minh's testament will be an important foundation for Vietnam to enter a new era, an era of national growth.
A number of localities across the country have organized numerous activities to celebrate the National Day, attracting both locals and tourists. More to follow.
In Nghệ An province, more than 40,000 domestic and foreign visitors have flocked to the Kim Liên National Special Relic Site to commemorate and pay tribute to the great contributions of President Ho Chi Minh. In localities such as Dak Lak and Nha Trang, the flag-raising ceremony took place at the Central Square on Monday. In Dak Lak, there was a performance featuring Alzai and ethnic costumes. In Nha Trang, the national flag was displayed on LED screens in buildings, central areas, and outdoor locations. In the central areas of Ho Chi Minh City, flags, flowers, and banners are colorfully displayed. Many tourist attractions and entertainment areas, such as Thao Cầm Viên Zoo, Suối Tiên, and Đầm Sen cultural parks, have been bustling with crowds. Additionally, there were 2 fireworks displays on Monday to celebrate Independence Day. In Cần Thơ, people gathered to offer incense at the Home King's Temple. Tourists from various provinces and cities came to pay their respects, honoring the merits of their ancestors.
79 years ago, the Democratic Republic of Vietnam was born, marking the beginning of a new era, an era of national independence and socialism. On September 2, 1945, at Ba Đình Square in Hanoi, over 500,000 people from all walks of life gathered, eagerly awaiting this historic moment. President Ho Chi Minh, on behalf of the provisional government, solemnly read the Declarations of Independence, officially announcing the birth of the Democratic Republic of Vietnam. For 79 years, Vietnamese citizens have felt honored and proud of the revolutionary achievement of the August 1945 revolution. Tens of thousands of people from across the country lined up to visit President Ho Chi Minh's mausoleum on National Day. This occasion provides an opportunity for Vietnamese citizens to express their gratitude and remembrance for the great leader who dedicated his life to the nation's independence and freedom. Visitors began gathering as early as 5 a.m., forming a long line that included veterans, ethnic groups, young children, and even international tourists, all united in a solemn and reverent atmosphere. Despite the large number of visitors, security and order were well maintained. On Sunday alone, over 27,000 people visited the mausoleum. The Mausoleum Management Board, in collaboration with the Hanoi People's Committees, provided free water and bread to visitors. These services are regularly organized during this significant anniversary to ensure the best possible experience for those paying their respect to President Ho Chi Minh. Historical sites are usually known for their group of guidance officers. They breathe life into the relics, helping visitors understand more about layers of meaning. In Kim Liên Relic of Nam Dan District, Nghệ An Province, the hometown of President Ho Chi Minh, becoming a tour guide here is a pride and honor for locals as they get to tell story about Uncle Ho. With the emotional voice of a Nghệ An native, Uncle Ho's actions and advice come alive through the stories.
Bác ơi, tháng năm về con lại đến Kim Liên, thăm quê ngoài Hoang Chu, thăm làng.
The folk song resounds from Hoang Chu, Uncle Ho's maternal hometown. It touches people's hearts and stirs people's emotions. With warm, sweet voices, tour guides at the Kim Liên Relic site are telling visitors stories about Uncle Ho's childhood.
You are in Hoang Chu village where Uncle Ho was born. 50 years away from his homeland, he returned home to this land on the morning of December the 9th in 1961. He was already a 71-year-old man. Things were the same, but his relatives were gone.
These stories have been told many times in front of simple furniture in the small house. Millions of tourists have come here, and many of them listen with tears in their eyes because their hearts have been touched by the stories.
Every year I go back to my hometown, and almost every year I visit Uncle Ho's hometown. I am deeply moved. The emotion is still the same.
To always maintain and convey emotions to visitors, along with a good oratory voice and knowledge, guides must choose stories and convey them well to most authentically recreate Uncle Ho's childhood and character.
Each guide is trained for a very long time. A tour guide must study, then do practical work and listen to their colleagues for 3 months. These are requirements for the job.
As more and more domestic and foreign tourists come to visit Uncle Ho's hometown, all guides here are required to know foreign languages.
I learned from Uncle Ho, learning for life, seeing deep feelings for Uncle Ho, from the feelings of compatriots to the feelings of international visitors, has been my motivation to do the job for 14 years. I have never had the intention of giving up this job.
With respect for Uncle Ho, these guides continue to inspire the next generation with Ho Chi Minh's ideology, fostering patriotism and national pride.
Coming up next on VTV News, popular forms of capital mobilization for businesses. And ethnic children study Vietnamese before new school year. Vietnam's GDP growth surged in the second quarter and remained robust into the third, with a 7% annual growth target in sight. The World Bank report rising industrial output and manufacturing export. By mid-August, total imports and exports surpassed $473 billion, a nearly 17% rise from the previous year. Buoyed by these positive indicators, investment and consumption have emerged as key drivers of this economic growth.
The newly inaugurated 500 kV Circuit 3 power transmission line highlights the value of public investment benefiting the economy both in the short and long term. This will eliminate concerns about power shortages for production and business, while also encouraging domestic and foreign investors to expand their operations.
What we see coming forward is that since there was a recovery, a very big rebound of exports, internationally we expect trade growth to moderate a bit. So therefore we expect also that Vietnam's exports will moderate a bit. It will continue to grow.
Exports are also a key driver, with total turnover exceeding $473 billion by mid-August. This is equivalent to a trade surplus of nearly $15.5 billion. The industrial and manufacturing sectors are also back on a growth trajectory.
The manufacturing and processing sectors are maintaining strong growth and regaining their momentum. In particular, export-oriented industries within manufacturing are also showing solid growth.
Exports, consumption, and inflation control in Vietnam are expected to improve, supported by positive external factors like the potential interest rate cuts by the U.S. Federal Reserve. All these factors will contribute to greater macroeconomic stability.
Interest rates globally are starting to go down, with the Fed expected to cut them twice this year. This is a crucial development because it will boost investment and consumption and help with debt repayment for the government, businesses, and individuals.
Many forecasts suggest that Vietnam's GDP growth could reach around 7% this year. However, to achieve this target is crucial to address bottlenecks in mechanisms, policies, and reforms. These changes would create a more open business and investment environment.
So far this year, industrial manufacturers have signed for larger loans to expand production and finish orders. This has raised credit growth of up to 15% for many banks, twice as high as the average. Many solutions to increase capital have been applied, aiming at improving financial capacity for the year-end period. More in the following story.
Manufacturing sectors, including raw materials, consumer goods, and industrial goods, have borrowed $1 billion so far this year. The need to expand business is understandable as the Purchasing Managers Index, PMI, of Vietnam's manufacturing sector has increased consecutively for months.
PMI index for 3 consecutive months has been at 52, 53, 54, which is a high level. It shows a strong recovery of domestic production, consumption, and trade. All are recovering positively. These are seen as the main factors for increasing credit demand.
The central bank will automatically loosen the credit growth limit for banks that achieve 80% or more of the allocated targets. In addition, banks with high growth rates will also increase capital sourced from other sources, such as dividend payments, stock issuance, or mobilizing additional foreign capital with low interest rates.
We are in contact with a number of international financial institutions in the US and Europe to mobilize large amounts of capital from foreign markets at reasonable interest rates.
Credit demand of enterprises is also shifting from short-term loans to medium and long-term loans. So in addition to attracting deposits from people and enterprises, this bank also mobilizes additional long-term capital from other valuable papers.
Short-term capital for medium and long-term loans is only 30%. To provide long-term capital for the market, we need to issue bonds and deposit certificates, which allow investors to resell anytime, anywhere, price and interest rate of deposits.
By the end of August, banks had also issued nearly $7 billion worth of corporate bonds. Increasing medium and long-term capital sources not only helps banks meet the credit demand at the end of the year, but also meets capital safety requirements for the banks themselves.
Typhoon Yagi is forecasted to enter the EC on Tuesday night by 1 p.m. On September 2nd, the strongest wind near the center of the storm will at level 8, 62 to 74 kilometers per hour, and gusts up to level 11, 102 to 117 kilometers per hour. From September 4th to September 6th, the typhoon is expected to operate with extremely strong force at level 12 to level 15 in the northeastern waters of the EC. In order to respond to the typhoon, the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development issued an emergency dispatch to coastal authorities from Quảng Ninh to Phie. They were required to closely monitor offshore vessels to avoid the storm proactively and to prepare rescue forces and vehicles as needed. About 1 month before the new school year, ethnic children will be taught Vietnamese. This preparation step provides them with basic language skills as they enter the new school year. It also improves education for children in remote areas. This story is from Lao Cai province, where more than 70% of pupils are ethnic people.
The new school year has not started yet, but these Hmong and Dao parents all want to send their children to class early.
My child is still not fluent in Vietnamese. I hope teachers can help him.
I want my child to know Vietnamese so that he can study.
The ethnic children are not good at Vietnamese, so we need to teach them basic communication.
Sang Ma Pao Primary Boarding School for Ethnic People welcomes more than 100 first graders this year. This is a difficult highland commune in Lao Cai province. These students are children of Hmong, Dao, Dai ethnic groups, so they speak their mother tongue at home and only use Vietnamese at school. Therefore, teachers who teach Vietnamese must also know the students' mother tongue.
Teaching Vietnamese for ethnic children before entering grade 1 is a key solution to ensure basic communication and implement the 2018 General Education Program. This is also equity in education.
The Vietnamese language is a big part of the national identity in Vietnam, and so I think it's very important for all children to learn Vietnamese, of course. And you have to also balance that with the importance of maternal languages.
For the first time, students in the Highlands have been able to use learning devices and read Vietnamese books. Along with learning Vietnamese, they also learn discipline, communication, and behavioral skills.
In Quảng Bình, the traditional boat racings and rowing festival was held on the Kiến Giang River in Lệ Thủy district to celebrate Independence Day. The festival featured 24 rowing boats with nearly 1,300 athletes. The men race was 24 kilometers and the women race was 18 kilometers. Originating before the 16th century, this festival is the largest of its kind in the country and is recognized by the Ministry of Culture, Sport and Tourism on the National Intangible Cultural Heritage list. It provides a chance for locals to showcase the beauty of Lệ Thủy and foster national solidarity and pride, honoring the legacy of General Võ Nguyên Giáp. Coming up next in on One News, the Philippines suffers from severe flood. An Israeli union strike to call for a ceasefire. Typhoon Yagi has caused severe flooding in the Philippines. At least 9 people have died and the number of casualties can still increase in a few days. Many infrastructure has been submerged. Tropical storm Yagi is moving 115 kilometers from capital Manila with wind gusts up to 90 kilometers per hour. Flooding has forced people to wade through waist-high water, floating their belongings on raft. Local authorities have ordered the closure of schools and government offices in the capital area and warned people to prepare for evacuation. Cruise tourism has been temporarily suspended at some ports affected by the storm. About 2,200 ferry passengers as cargo workers have been stranded and dozens of domestic flights have been delayed due to stormy weather. Israel's largest union has called a full strike from 6 a.m. local time on Monday to pressure the government to reach a ceasefire with Islamist Hamas organizations that will lead to the release of hostages in Gaza. Some services at Ben Gurion Airport, Israel's main air transport hub, has been suspended, while bus and rail services in many areas were cancelled or only partially operated today. Workers at Israel commercial port of Haifa are also on strike. Hospitals are partially operating and banks are closed. The strike was called after the bodies of 6 Israeli hostages were found in tunnels in the southern Gaza Strip. The incident has deeply shocked Israelis, with at least 500,000 taking to the streets in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv on Sunday. The far right is on the rise in Germany in Sunday local elections. According to a preliminary result, the far right Alternative for Germany AfD party won the state of Thüringen with 32.8% of vote, while the center-right Christian Democratic Union only took second place with 23.6%. This result marks the first time a far-right party has won first place in German state elections in World War II. So far, no party has announced that it will agree to coalition with the AfD, making it difficult for the far right to form a government. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has called on mainstream parties to form a government without far-right elements. After extreme weather ravaged Japan's rice harvest last year, the country is grappling with a shortage of food that many see as a crucial staple there. With reserve of the grain at their lowest in the quarter century, and temperatures still on the rise, Japan is turning to science to prevent future supply shock and is on a mission to develop more heat-resistant strains of rice.
The local government in Saitama, a prefecture north of Tokyo that is one of the hottest regions in the country, hopes science can avert future shortages and is pushing ahead with one of several nationwide projects to develop more temperature-tolerant rice plants. Researchers take seeds from across Japan, cultivate and cross-pollinate them in a drive to create a variety of rice that can stand up to rising temperatures.
We cultivated this with the aim of having high temperature resistance. I think an important future task for us will be to make further improvements on the current level by combining varieties with high heat tolerances.
It tastes good, and on top of that, it's high quality as well. That's why the prefecture asked me to grow it.
Last summer's high temperatures and dry conditions led to lower rice yields and damaged the quality of grains, contributing to the lowest inventories seen in 25 years, according to official data. This year's conditions were even hotter, as Japan sweltered in its warmest July on record in 2024. We're making orders from rice wholesalers and other suppliers, but even if we place an order, there are times where only half or only 20% of the order is available, or times when they're out of stock. Japan imports more than 60% of its food resources, but rice is one of the few staples it has historically been able to produce and sustain itself.
And now let's continue with the weather forecast. And that's it for this hour on VTV News. To rewatch our program, you can log on to VTVgo.vn or download our mobile application VTVgo. Thanks for watching and goodbye for now.